My research into my genre started with creating a survey on SurveyMonkey to see if my chosen genre, crime thriller, was as popular among my chosen demographic as it was to me. By using SurveyMonkey, it allowed me to see what genre was the best suited to my demographic, and therefore, based off my analysis of the feedback from my survey, which confirmed my assumption that crime thriller was the best associated to my demographic. To make sure I could come back to everything I'd researched, I made sure everything was posted on my blogger, as it's more convenient than noting everything on paper, as it would get lost amongst all my other notes. Additionally, it helped that during the filming stages I could refer back to previous posts from that I'd done before. It also ensured that I could keep track of my progress to make sure I was on track and wouldn't fall behind or repeat the same task twice. Once I had the genre for my trailer, it was important to further my understanding. I researched my chosen genre, crime thriller. To do this, I used the internet and websites such as YouTube. However, there was a huge disadvantage to using YouTube, as I often found myself on videos that had nothing to do with my genre. Nonetheless, it helped give me a vivid plan of an idea of what I wanted my trailer to have in it. YouTube did have a massive advantage, as without it, we'd have to go out and buy the films and to view the trailers, whereas with YouTube, every film trailer is there, even films that are older. Google and IMDb were also good websites that inspired my trailer. For example, I googled crime thriller and I got an abundance of different examples. This was helpful for the ancillary task of creating my movie poster and movie magazine, as I could look at old copies of previous Empire magazines so I could make my magazine look as authentic as possible, the same as my movie poster. I already had a good idea about crime thriller films, as I had access to Netflix, Sky Movies and Now TV, so I could again watch films and TV shows like Criminal Minds, Taken and Zodiac, etc. to get a basic idea of a plot, and to not overuse a generic plot. After I'd gotten a basic idea, I mind mapped the codes and conventions of a crime thriller genre. Although I had a lot of knowledge already of crime thrillers, this benefited me so that by applying what I already knew, I could confirm that my idea and plot would not delve into another genre and stay conformed to the codes and conventions of a crime thriller. Creating the ancillary text of the magazine cover and the movie poster, I used Adobe Photoshop to create a realistic film magazine and a realistic movie poster. It was important I maintained the same colour scheme and font throughout to create a brand for my film. I did this by using the same font which I downloaded from a font website online. The disadvantage of the font generator was that there were so many fonts to choose from and it became time consuming, downloading and trying out different fonts. Photoshop itself I already had limited knowledge of how to use due to my AS magazine task, but I did learn new techniques that allowed me to make my movie poster and magazine as authentic as possible. Photoshop was easier to use than Adobe InDesign, as with InDesign it was really fiddly and you had already had to have the skills, which I struggled with in my AS task. With Photoshop, you don't have to be traditionally artistic to be able to create flawless images. Which you can literally take an image on a camera with no previous photography knowledge and manipulate it to become a high standard, which I did with both my images for my movie magazine and for the poster. For the main task, I used Adobe Premiere Pro, which was the main piece of technology I used. At first, I found it difficult to use as there was loads of little buttons and tabs to play around with. In comparison to iMovie, which we used to edit our dot-to-dot pieces, Premiere Pro is much more advanced with the effects and different tools it had to allow me to edit my footage. Premiere Pro also allowed me to name and organise my footage so that it was easy to import and access. For example, in my trailer I used a lot of the transition effects. The one I used the most was Fade to Black. This was to ensure that my scenes would integrate better. Premiere Pro also allowed me to add titles, add music and sound effects to make my trailer as authentic as possible.
2,000 years later.
Lastly, for the evaluation part of my work, I mostly used SurveyMonkey and social media. SurveyMonkey because it was very easy to use and straightforward. It gave a variety of survey layouts to make surveys as straightforward as possible. To get the audience to answer my survey, I used Facebook to create a post with the survey attached. This was easy as it was accessible. Once my survey had been answered, SurveyMonkey already had an evaluation system in which put our answers in graphs. This was very beneficial as it was easy and it meant I didn't have to make graphs, which would have been very time consuming. I only had to evaluate my feedback. Additionally, I used iMovie, which unlike Premiere Pro was an easy application that allowed me to organise my images and add a voiceover, which was very straightforward. This was for one part of my evaluation questions. YouTube was a valuable website for the evaluation, as it was a platform I could upload my trailer and questions on, which would mean my trailer was easily accessible. And it also meant that I used a range of different technologies.